UFC 300, guys, this game's about to come to an end because we're about to have the card. In fact, there's an announcement pending from Dana right now that has to do with 300 that will be to you within 24 hours. But what we don't know is that going to be the finalization of the card. Is it the main event? That's really all we need to know, right? There's never a time where we're going to need to know the entire card, including the day of UFC 300. We got to know what the main event is. And Dana is getting ready to make an announcement. So I'm just sharing with you whatever guesses you have. I don't know if this is the final announcement. I don't know. But if it is, then we got to get your final guesses in. Now, only one thing has happened that was meaningful, okay? We know, or at least I know, and I'm comfortable telling you guys, Izzy versus Duplessis, those phone calls are happening right now. But that fight isn't done. And I don't know that it can be done. I mean, Dana's about to make an announcement that's gonna hit and drop, and you guys will hear it within 24 hours. I don't know that fight, which would be the headliner, I don't know if it's done, but I also don't know that it even could be done that quickly. When you get out of the cage, you have to go through processing, deprocessing, but you will go back before the commission. The same commission that you must see before this all begins, which is the weigh-in. You see them, and then you go get on the scale. That's the first thing you do, is you go see the commission. Then you go to the scale, then you go to the fight, then you get done, but then everything goes in reverse. And the commission will automatically suspend you. It doesn't matter if your fight was 1 second and you're the one that won. It doesn't matter if you guys are coming across the ring and the guy's knee goes out and you don't ever touch each other. If you're ever in a fight, you get a 7-day suspension. 100% never miss. Most jurisdictions will take what I just said, except make it a 30-day suspension. Now, if you violate a suspension, your license status now goes into jeopardy. That has never been tested, and that has never been executed, but I'm just sharing with you, it is important to have some of that final work done, and it would be very bad form for a promotion to make a match while an athlete is still in the suspension period. Duplessis' face was pretty busted up. And your eye is a very sensitive thing. To fracture something, just by example, in your eye, it's a little bit easier to do. I don't know how confident I am that they're going to turn that fight around and make that announcement, even though it's the one that they're after. I'm just not certain that they're going to do it that fast. I'm not certain they're going to send out bout agreements and have that done before Duplessis gets signed off by a doctor, which can trump the suspension. The suspension is automatic, but if you have a note from a doctor, you can end the suspension. I just want you guys to understand this. It's a very relevant point. If you're attempting to hedge your guesses and make your bets as to what the big announcement for 300 that Dana's getting ready to announce is, yes, it's true, Duplessis, Adesanya, that is being discussed. I'm not confident that's the one they're going to announce because I'm just not confident they can have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted from a perception standpoint this quickly. But there was a clue. I don't think of myself as somebody that wants credit. When I was growing up, my mother would tell me that it's very important that you do an act because it's the right thing to do or because it needs to be done. But if you only do an act to make yourself look good for other people, you're not actually doing it for somebody else. You're doing it for yourself to look in a certain way to get credit. If you have to have credit, she didn't like that. She thought it was a bad thing. I grew up thinking that was a bad thing. I grew up being very quiet, keeping my mouth, just handling things. I'd handle things in offices. I handle companies. I handle businesses that I worked with. I'd handle them in relationships, whatever it might be. I wouldn't want the credit because I grew up thinking, and I've changed my mind as I've gotten older. I've changed my mind. And I don't know if that's a character flaw. I don't know if that's an arrogance. But I will let you know that credit is now important to me. Particularly if I'm the one that did something. I mean, not for nothing. They gave somebody else credit for something that I did. I'm okay with that. Give him his applause. But he should circle back to me and go, hey, man, I don't know how they got this wrong. I'm well aware that you did it. Right? It means something. 2 weeks ago, Conor McGregor, 21 days ago, it was on New Year's Day exactly. So 3 weeks ago, Conor McGregor puts out a pre-recorded video. He's swirling this wine, drinking. Talks about he's going to fight Michael Chandler, International Fight Weekend, June 29th, T-Mobile Arena. And I got asked by ESPN to come on and discuss that fight. And I went on, I was like the skunk at the garden party. This was supposed to be this big celebration, right? Red Panty Night is real. Conor is still king. That is the box office draw. If he's coming back, that's a big deal. So, I mean, we got the balloons and the confetti and the fireworks going off in the background. I come in and I'm a complete dud. I said, guys, I'm not co-signing that statement. I don't have that evidence yet. I call T-Mobile Arena. The UFC doesn't even have a book. They have it reserved. But that's a meaningfully, I put on a lot of events. That's a meaningfully different term, booked versus reserved. There's no on sale. International Fight Weekend, that's a massive fight weekend. You're bringing as a main event a non-title fight. That surprises me. And I said this live on the air. I said, not to mention, you got to look at the source. The source is Conor McGregor. Now, normally that's a pretty good principle. But that same source in Conor McGregor 4 days prior, while yelling over Mauro Ranallo, soccer guy, said he was boxing Manny Pacquiao in the Middle East. So I can't trust that source. And I told you guys what I think's happening. I think legitimately Conor's having a hard time getting this fight done. So Conor went back to an old parlor trick, which is to come out and make an announcement of a fight. Date, venue, everything. He was smart enough to know where they were going to be, what date they were going to be performing, and the fact that they didn't yet have a main event, which means he could insert himself. Michael Chandler that came right in behind it. Like, even though they were going to fight each other, they were partners in that, in trying to hustle and manufacture and bring it to I got no problem with it. I love the whole thing. I just told you at the time, this is what I think's happening. I don't think they have the fight. I don't think that was a fight announcement. I think that Conor, where he's been telling us, man, I'm having a hard time earning a living. I'm having a hard time getting out there and doing my job. I think he's telling us the truth. I think he really wants to compete. I think Conor deserves credit for that. I'm saying this to praise Conor and to praise Chandler, that they would go to that move, to the Hail Mary, come out and tell the world a misinformation as a way of maneuvering. It's a way of manipulating the system. I respected it. But I predicted it, and Dana said at the post-fight press conference over the weekend, he said, Conor's not fighting in June. That was all that he said. But for any of us that saw it and understood the context that led to Dana, saw the smile, the smirk, the body language, we came to the same conclusion, which is that Conor's going to be fighting at 300. So we're now left with one question, and the entire genesis of the 7 minutes and 44 seconds you just gave me to this piece is to ask you a question. Is it against Chandler? I would certainly think so. I've always felt that the organization has been very sincere when they said it's Conor versus Chandler or it's Conor versus nobody. I've always felt that they were very sincere. And I certainly think that they owe that to Michael Chandler. It's just a very unique situation. Again, Dana did not say he's fighting at 300. He said he's not fighting in June. So we don't even know this is about 300. But if you bring Conor to the card against Chandler, you have your biggest star, that's your main event, right? Done. That's your main event. If you put Conor as anything less than a main event, you just demoted your biggest star. Doesn't matter the pop of the crowd or how many Irish loaded jumbo jet can come over. It doesn't matter. If he doesn't close the night, he's not the biggest star. Or you're going to close the biggest show you've ever put on with a non-title fight. And that's a very hard juxtaposition. That's an extremely hard thing for me to get my head around. To the fact that I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think some level of the clues I just put on the table are true. The question is, are all of them? So will Conor be coming to 300? If you watch the press conference, you're probably at least of that state of mind. Do I believe that Conor and Chandler fight in June? No, I know they're not fighting in June. Or at least I know those bout agreements aren't done, and I know they've never been asked to fight in June. Things can change. But I'll share this with you. If Conor's coming to 300, if that's true, then it would be equally as likely that it's not against Chandler. And if the announcement gets made, and if it is Conor, and it is 300, and it is not Chandler, They always close out. Always close out with title fight. It'd be a very strange situation to see Conor versus Leon, or Conor versus anyone for that. It'd be a very strange situation. As strange as that might be, as much as you want to dismiss it, and I do too, I don't think that's what's going to happen either, but as much as you want to dismiss that, I'm very confident in telling you McGregor's not going to fight in anything but a main event, and I'm more confident to tell you he's not main eventing 300. Title fight will main event 300. So how do you reconcile that? How do you bring all those pieces together? Stand by, because we're about to find out.